All right, Jastin. A through Z.
Oh.
Oh. Oh me, oh my. Have you seen the pictures for the new Crow movie that comes out this year?
The new what movie?
Crow.
No.
I maybe I did, but I just didn't know if it was true or not. I didn't know if it was some meme or if it was fake or I may have. And
So
I remember people complaining about it, but I just didn't know if what was true or what wasn't.
So was it the John Wick spinoff, The Ballerina, got pushed by a whole year. But literally in that time slot, that release slot, they went, oh, we're just going to release the new Crow movie. With, what's his name? Baby Skarsgård. What's his name? Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill Skarsgård as the titular Crow. And, I mean, they made some interesting choices. They kind of, Suicide Squad, the Joker, him a little bit. They're going for, things.
Interesting. Yeah, I just looked up on IMDb some of the pictures.
Yeah. Very, unique.
Some choices. Yeah.
Yeah. But also it's just crazy. Like, I don't even think many people really knew they were already filming it. And they're like, oh, it's done filming and we'll have it out in a couple of months. Yeah, which, I mean, this thing has been in development for years, though. Bradley Cooper was attached to be the Crow for a little while. Jason Momoa was attached to be the Crow for a little while. And then just out of nowhere, Baby Skarsgård.
I'm like, I feel like that's all over the board with who they chose. Like, none of the three really feel like similar in any way.
Other than two of them are known for being just insanely jacked or potentially jacked with their shirts off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a thing.
It is a thing.
The director of the original Crow was like, this looks stupid. Which that guy also directed Gods of Egypt. So I don't know if you really should be saying words about anything. But yeah.
Huh. Okay. I mean, the thing with it is, like, I think Baby Skarsgård has the acting talent to pull it off, but I just don't know what to expect in general from it.
I don't think anybody does. I mean, people are in love with the Crow franchise. But honestly, I don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of the Crow. But setting aside that, there's been way more bad Crows than there have been good Crows. I mean, the odds are stacked against this movie. I mean, do you guys remember that one Crow that had David Boreanaz in it? It was, I think that was Crow City of Angels. Or no, City of Angels was the TV show, right?
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't know that, though.
There was a TV show?
Yeah. You guys, you never watched Crow, the TV show?
I only watched the, is it Brandon Lee movies? Yeah.
The original one. The only one.
Or just the movie? Yeah.
The original Crow. The Crow.
Yeah.
Yes. There's Crow City of Angels, which I think is the TV show, or that might be the second or third one. There's like Crow Day of the Dead, which I think is the one that has David Boreanaz in it as a villain. It's also got some MMA guy in it. But there was definitely a Crow TV show where he like befriends a cop and helps him solve crimes and whatnot. Yeah. You know, it's that 90s bullshit of everybody has to help a cop. Every TV show is somebody helping a cop. They're like, man, what about this? We're going to have a cat and the cat's going to help a cop. Like, it's just that shit. But
I feel like I only saw the original, granted, but I feel like usually there's like you associate like the long hair with the crow, right?
Yeah, there is that iconic look.
Yeah, and that's not what they're doing with Baby Skarsgård.
Okay, Crow City of Angels was like, I guess that was the second one. There's Crow Salvation with Kirsten Dunst and William Atherton. Man.
You're going to watch that, aren't you?
I might have to. It's got William Atherton in it. That's just a fun name to say, though. When was the last time you said William Atherton?
I'm trying to remember who that is.
That's Walter Peck from Ghostbusters.
Okay. Yep.
He was also in what's it called? Oh fuck. It's gonna drive me nuts. Pauly Shore movie, Biodome.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, there's Crow Wicked Prayer. Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yeah, Wicked Prayer. That's the one with David Boreanaz in it. So, Edward Furlong was the Crow. And it had Tara Reid, Tito Ortiz, and David Boreanaz in it.
Okay. I'm not going to lie. I was thinking that David Boreanaz was supposed to be the Crow.
No. Crow Stairway to Heaven. That was the TV show.
Okay.
And, Mark Damascus. Or not Damascus, DeCassis, or, fuck. He was an Iron Chef. He played the sushi chef in John Wick 3. He was the Crow in that.
Oh, I do remember
the caucus,
that. Because he was in a Street Fighter, right? Did I think it was? Who was I thinking of? I thought he was in Street Fighter.
No, he was in Double Dragon.
Maybe that's what I was.
Were you thinking of Double Dragon?
Maybe. Oh, is that the one with the medallions?
Yes. Yes, that is Double Dragon.
Maybe that might be. I don't know why I was thinking Street Fighter. That's not even the same.
Yeah, both video games.
I guess that's fair. Yeah.
They might as well be the same thing as far as the movies.
Jastin, why are you acting like you did not love Double Dragon when you were a kid?
Oh. Because I did not.
Jastin, that's a lie.
Double Dragon was peak as a kid.
Jastin, that's a lie.
I was a big Double Dragon fan. I was so mad at that movie.
But dude, that had Scott Wolf in it.
Oh. No.
And Alyssa Milano. And Robert Patrick. You have to admit, Robert Patrick was a badass.
Yeah, I'm glad they made money, but it just wasn't a good Double Dragon movie.
Jastin, what are you talking about, dude? They had medallions and everything. Do you remember the animated TV show that came off of that?
The new martial arts. Yeah,
do you remember that TV show, the animated one, where they get the Double Dragon powers and like morph like fucking Power Rangers and shit?
Yep.
Hey, you have to admit that was kind of badass, though, dude.
The might of the dragon, live the code of the dragon. Yeah, I remember that.
Man, we were about due for a Jastin song.
And they would have to fight, what's his name, the Shadow King or whatever?
Yeah.
Man, those were good times.
Yep. The Shadow Boss.
What was it about the 90s that they just had to make an animated TV series out of everything?
Yeah, they really did.
Just out of everything. They did Godzilla, the TV series, remember? But it was the new Godzilla. When they were just running around with their friend Godzilla. They had the King Kong miniseries. Great shit.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they would turn obviously adult things and then make those into kid shit too? Just to sell toys? Like RoboCop?
Oh, you just came for Jastin.
Ain't nothing wrong with Big Robo.
Except you probably shouldn't be a kid and watching that movie.
I was fine. I did all right.
I can't say much either. I was a child when I saw that. When I saw RoboCop toys, I was like, oh yeah, from the movie.
Yeah, same.
That I watched, of course. Because to me, I'm not understanding the distinction. And I'm like, oh, of course they would have toys. It was a movie. Like, I was not, allocating it to, that was obviously a rated R, not appropriate for children movie. And I was like, yep, of course. Got to watch that. Or got to play with those toys. They did the same with Terminator. Why the fuck were they releasing Terminator toys? The 90s were the wild, wild west, man.
Yeah. And back to The Crow. I mean, my concern for this movie wouldn't be just how the character looks. I mean, there were a lot of ingredients to that original movie that really made it work. It had that dark, gothic look and style going for it. And at the time, in the 90s, 94 when it came out, that was all the rage. And so it just had that very dark, appealing look. It felt a little different from some of the other movies. And, that's the thing I remember the most about The Crow was just that gothic, dreary kind of look that it had. And you were kind of like in this crime-ridden part of the city. It was very, very dark in that way. Like a lot darker than like Batman was. You know what I mean? It was just a little bit more, it just seemed a little bit more extreme than that. So it really had this sense of style. And then, of course, there was the story with Brandon Lee and him dying. So it also, not to say that was a good thing for the movie, but we've seen this before, and it's it'll never stop happening. When somebody dies during the making of a film or something like that, there's this sort of sentimental factor that is then kind of added to the film. People think about that actor and they think about this film, and that can elevate the film as well. So The Crow had a lot going for it in those ways. The simple revenge plot, but it was kind of interesting. It had that gothic style to it. It was kind of dark and kind of extreme as far as other movies that were available at that time. And then you have the Brandon Lee death. Well, now you're talking about this movie, and if already people are not liking the look, but to me, that's the least of its problems. Now, the dark theme, gothic stuff is kind of, I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily say it's old news. I mean, there's people that still like that stuff, but we've seen a ton of movies with that look now. A ton of movies come out that have done that look. So it's not going to feel fresh like that did. and then if he doesn't look the same and you've already got kind of people with a down attitude on it, how are you gonna, I just don't know how you replicate any of the magic of the old one. So what do you do with this?
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe that's, but then again, maybe that's the reason why they're going with a new look and maybe a new direction and everything, because maybe the idea was, how could we possibly replicate anything from that? So maybe the resolve is to do your own thing, but I don't know. Like, what does this play on? Nostalgia? Can't really do that if you're changing the look and the style of it. So you don't really have that going for it. I just don't know what this is going to be. And then if it just feels like another one of those sequels to The Crow, then it's just going to be crap. The only good Crow is the first one. And the rest, and all the rest of the stuff is just shitty stuff. So I would hate for it to fall into that. But I think there's a reason why they were never really able to replicate the magic of that first one with all these sequels and series and all of that stuff. Because it was just it was the perfect storm of all of these things rolled up into one. And that's what makes that film a classic. So how do you replicate that shit?
Well, there's that, and the fact that, it really is supposed to, I think they're wanting to recreate the buzz behind it. I think with the whole, like it was the dark, brooding, like gothic subculture that surrounded the original Crow. And this one, they're going with, I don't know, brooding SoundCloud rapper. Because he's just got fucking tattoos on his face and it's just a bunch of shit like that. And they're like, yeah, that's how we get the kids to be into this, like they were into the gothic mystique that was the Crow. It's just that weird mentality they have of like, well, let's tap into a counterculture. Let's tap into one of these, those types of groups to be the aesthetic for this movie. And unfortunately, it's the wrong mentality because that shit's not completely crazy these days. Now, yes, like I said, I made fun of it. It's like the SoundCloud rapper thing, but people have tattoos on their face now. It's not the craziest thing in the world anymore. I mean, I have several tattoos that were called job killers. When I first started getting tattoos, they were called job killers. They're not anymore. I've got tattoos on my neck. I've got tattoos on my hand. I've got tattoos on my forearms, just completely visible. Shit's no longer job killers. I mean, fuck, I've got 3 piercings in my nose that I go to work with. Not a job killer. I've got a beard, like a really big bushy beard. None of that shit's job killers anymore. So to use the aesthetic or the argument that it's like a counterculture type of thing to tap into, it's the, because like, especially back in the early 90s, like the gothic culture was like, that's like, those are the people that were left behind. Those were the people that were bullied and, made fun of, and, they were forgotten by society or, pushed aside by society. That's not a thing anymore. There are so many celebrities that have face fucking tattoos that just go and do shit. So what are you really tapping into? Other than just the aesthetic. And it's also a weird aesthetic because it's a fucking ripoff of the Jared Leto Joker. Because he's got like a word tattoo right above his eyebrow. And then when he's all crowed out, he's just got random fucking tattoos all over his body and shit. Which I get is a thing people really actually do, but It's the same thing that people made fun of that fucking Joker for. Oh, you're doing a hip modern Joker, so he's just got to have tattoos randomly all over his body. That's kind of what this Crow feels like. Oh, he's a hip new Crow. He's got tattoos all over his body and Crow makeup. It's just weird. I mean, and the thing is this movie could be good. It's just, is it going to be good and like legitimately? And I'm not even saying like challenge the Crow for best Crow, but like, is it going to challenge the Crow for it's just right to be in the franchise? Like, you know, be a part of what is considered the legacy of the Crow franchise? Or is it just going to be another fucking thing where you're just like, why?
Why do we need this?
Yeah. Like, and then once you get past the look, I just think the bigger problem is what is it going to be? Like, I think it would have to excel some places where the other Crow didn't, you know, maybe you could, maybe the cinematography would have to be in that ballpark or better. It would have to have a distinct look. Maybe the fighting and the choreography of it. Maybe, and I'm not saying like it has to be Shang-Chi level, but maybe it can be more brutal. Maybe it can feel more gritty.
I mean, it would be nice if they did some stuff
before,
like playing with the fact that he's dead. You know, playing the fact like, because one of the things they did in the first Crow is, you know, he gets shot and get up from it.
Yeah.
But like, what if like while he's fighting, somebody grabs his arm and breaks it? And he just kind of snaps it back and keeps going because he's like, I'm fucking dead, bro. Like, that ain't shit. Like, or doing that shit where he's fighting in a fighting style of he's taking a ton of damage while he's fighting because it doesn't matter to him.
Yeah, you know, he can take, you know, they stab him and then he takes the knife out of himself and stabs somebody, or he, you know, or maybe he pushes somebody into him and then they get stabbed by the blade or whatever that's in him. You know, you could do a lot of that stuff. He could shoot himself and then you know, it goes through him and kills the person behind him. You know, maybe if there was more kind, like you said, a use of that could be fun. Him taking a cut off limb or his arm breaks, so he just pulls the bone out and starts, you know, murking somebody's face. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I just think it's going to have to excel. You don't have any of those magic elements. So I just feel like you're going to have to excel somewhere else. Or like you kind of mentioned, maybe the story is just way better or something. Like how did, but I mean, it's a revenge story.
I think acting wise, it's got a shot.
Yeah.
Baby Skarsgård, great actor.
Yeah.
It's
so
also
I think
got Danny Huston, which people would probably know as the bad guy from Wonder Woman. And he's a good actor. He's probably going to be the main bad guy, the crime lord, if I had to guess. Just off the top of my head, looking at this cast, he's probably going to be like the crime lord guy. You know, there's some people in this that can act, like that have shown they can act, that might help. You know what I mean? Like, you know, just being a legit, well-acted movie. Because let's be real.
Yeah.
The first Crow is not an immaculately acted movie. It's campy, which is fine. I'm not trying to say that that's a knock against the movie. That's its style. You know, but that might be where this one differs. Maybe it's a more like less campy, more like serious, like well acted version of that story or something.
Yeah.
To take it to another level.
I would like to see him do something different with it, or something a little more serious, or maybe he doesn't know exactly who killed him and his fiance, or maybe he doesn't know, like maybe that's something that needs to be figured out, or maybe he's only got a limited time to do this, and I don't know. You know, maybe there's some sort of dilemma or something to make this, because the other crow really simply is he just comes back to life and he murks everybody and just kind of gets revenge, and you know they can't kill him, so it's pretty set in stone what's going to happen, and you're just kind of enjoying it happening. So I mean, they could do that same thing, but I don't know, maybe play around with some of this stuff. Maybe he's not just so immortal and invulnerable and everything like that, you know. Maybe there's a time limit. Maybe I don't know. I just feel like you might need to do something different rather than just recycle the same thing with different actors and a different look.
What if he's physically invulnerable, but he's still emotionally vulnerable?
He'd be Edward Cullen.
Fair. Yeah, I mean that's all fair. I mean it's just, I don't know. We haven't seen anything from the Crow in 19 years. I don't know who the fuck's clamoring for another Crow anything.
Yeah. It just feels like another Hollywood being Hollywood and just recycling something that worked back then, and let's see if it can work now. It's been a while. Let's see if we can come back and it can work now. But, you know, and sometimes that works out. You know, Mad Max wasn't bad when it came back. That Blade Runner movie wasn't bad. I mean, you know, sometimes we get lucky with that, but most of the time we just get trash. So,
I mean, some people,
I guess we'll see.
Some people say, you know, Dune. We'll see. We'll see what we say about Dune.
Segue.
Yep. King of them.
Seamless.
Somebody will listen to me.
Nobody knows anything but you.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
Come on.
Cinema Slayers.
Hey, Cinefans, and welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Slayers podcast. I'm Sterling, and as always, I'm joined by Heather and Jastin. And tonight we are going to talk about what we liked, didn't like, and everything in between with the new movie, Dune, Part 2. We will go spoiler-free recommendations and scores, and then into a more spoiler-centric section with time codes in the description to allow you to jump around in both audio and video formats. And with all that, Jastin, what are your spoiler-free thoughts about Dune Part 2?
All right. So, I went on ahead and went back because, I mean, it had been a while since we had watched and reviewed the first Dune. So I thought it would help, at least me anyway, to go back and watch the first one. And I'm glad I did that, because I think, especially going into this one, this is definitely not one of those where I would recommend somebody. You know how sometimes we get on here and say, oh, if you didn't see the first one, it's all right. You can go ahead and watch this one. I don't think so with this one. I think the reason why this one was so effective, and in my opinion, more effective than the first film, is because the first film had the burden of doing all the world building and character establishing and things like that. So it couldn't move as much as this could. You know, the characters couldn't transition as much and grow as much as they did in this one, because we were world building and establishing and everything like that. And even though, and I'm not saying the first Dune was bad, I thought it was all right. You know what I'm saying? But I genuinely think this is better. I do. I think it's better in just about every way than the first movie. Especially just the growth of some of the characters, some of the character relationships, I think, are more compelling in this. So I think that that's really where is one of the main strengths of the movie. Like when I look at the relationship between the Timothée Chalamet character, Paul, and Zendaya's character, that to me is, I guess you could say, if that's probably the heart of the film, and a lot of the back and forth and the struggle that these characters have is built on that relationship. So I feel like you have to buy that in order for a lot of especially by the time you get to the third act, like you have to buy that relationship. And then to me, by the time it gets to the third act, that's what makes everything that happens toward the end of this compelling. But it only works if you buy and are there for that relationship that they build. And so for me, it was effective enough for me. I liked their dynamic. I thought that Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet did a great job with this. I bought the relationship. My fear, I think, going in and seeing previews of this is that it felt like it was just going to be like this, like 80% this love story and then 10% everything else. But to my surprise, and I think to the benefit of the film, I don't think they overdid it with that. It was enough of it for you to care about it. But there was a lot going on in this movie as far as politically what was going on. You've got all these different groups and families and tribes trying to manipulate the situation and what was going on. So you've got these characters being pulled in all these different directions. So, you know, they didn't overly spend time with the love stuff to where we didn't get enough of all of the other things that are going on around these characters. Like, I thought this did a better job of balancing the scope of it all, like of what's going on, you know, to where you felt that there's this bigger picture, that there are all these bigger things going on. Even when you didn't always see those things, you always felt like they were there. And you always feel like there's some manipulation and things happening that we can't see. So I think as far as the scale of it, it was effective in doing that. Visually, man, this movie looks incredible. Like, I mean, I think the biggest strength of this is its visuals. Like, things look epic, things sound epic, the sound editing, the cinematography, the special effects. Like, after going to something like Argyle, where the special effects were just so bad that it was hard to watch, and then you go to something like this, and this just looks amazing. You know, whether we're looking at a sandworm, somebody riding a sandworm, whether we're looking at these huge contraption ships where you can just see almost every detail of the machinations and how they split apart, open up, land in a place and stuff like that. You know, all of the visuals are pretty incredible, and they definitely give you that Star Warsy kind of sci-fi vibe with it all. You know, you definitely this definitely feels like that. You know, it feels like the stuff that you want from a sci-fi. You know, you've got the whole intergalactic intrigue, you've got all of these different characters and different looking characters and things like that. You know, it's got all of those ingredients going for it. So I feel like, you know, if you're a sci-fi fan and you like this kind of stuff, this is right up your alley as far as how it looks, how it feels. It has that going for it. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, there are a lot of actors in this that are good. You know, a lot of these actors are talented. Even though it is the Timothée Chalamet Zendaya show for the most part, you know, you got Florence Pugh in here. Austin Butler, I thought, was another one who did a really good job in here as this our kind of younger, newer kind of psycho villain that we set up in this. I thought that he did a good job. I did miss Jason Momoa a little bit, but there are some other characters that return and they do well enough when they return. So I thought that was good. I feel like if I say who returns, it might be kind of a spoiler. So I won't say who returns and stuff. But
I'll say this though, Jastin, if you wanted to say their name, I think it'd be fine because they've been doing a shit ton of press touring for this fucking movie. So I don't really think it's that big of a spoiler considering the amount of press they have done saying they are in this movie.
Okay. I get that, but I guess for me, for the spirit of just the way I felt it happened in the film and where it happens in the film, it feels like it might be a spoiler if I just say it. You know, I feel like if I say a name, that it implies person is alive. And in the film, the way it plays out, it didn't feel, it felt like it was supposed to kind of be a surprise. So I just, you know, will not say it in just spirit of the storytelling of the film. But when characters do return, I'll say that. And when they return, I think they do, that they're good. They are fine. They don't take away from anything that is happening. Florence Pugh was in here. So, you know, I'm always down for some Florence Pugh. There wasn't much of her in here, but you feel like she's going to have a more pivotal role later. So it's all good. You know, this is only the part 2. So, you know, not a lot of, so some of this is setting up things. So there is that. The film is long. And I mean, what was it? 246. So, I mean, that's almost 3 hours. Yeah. So 19.5. So it's almost 3 hours long. And I'm not going to lie, though, even though I would say I enjoyed most of this, I did feel the length. It's long. I mean, it is long. And I think I do feel the first hour is really good. It's pretty good. And I did feel like the third act, when we get to the final maybe 45, 50 minutes of this, it's exciting enough and enough compelling stuff happens to where at the end I was like, okay, that was good. But man, in the middle there, I think maybe we could have cut some of that middle, maybe. And I felt like we would have been all right. Maybe. I don't know. I guess, I may have to wait and see the third film because, I'm saying we could have cut some stuff, but who knows? Maybe that shit is more important than I think it is. Maybe with the third part that we get, I'll look back and go, okay, maybe all that shit did need to be in the movie. But as I felt, but just in a bubble, sitting there watching it, not gonna lie, I did feel the length. And maybe some of that too was I watched this hella late. Like I watched a 9:45 showing. So I wasn't out of that bitch till like 1 o'clock. So that could have had something to do with it. Maybe if I had caught this a little earlier.
I watched it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, dude. It's still fucking long as shit, man. Like, it's still really long, man.
I'm just saying I didn't help matters. I had a long day of work and then tried to watch this shit. I don't know. Maybe this would have just gone down better. You know what I mean? Maybe if I had some more energy, maybe it would have gone down better. But regardless of reasons, I did feel the length a little bit. It's long, but I mean, but it's not a bad long. I mean, we've seen some bad long movies and it's worse when they're bad. I mean, you could do a lot worse than this. It was long, but it was a good long. The story's compelling enough. The characters were compelling enough. It's got amazing visuals. You're never tired of looking at shit on the screen. So I think overall this succeeds, and I do think it is an improvement over the first movie because while the first, like I said, the burden of having to establish and world build and everything like that means that the story can't move as much. This story really got to move and the characters really got to grow. And I think it will build to an exciting finale. I feel like the finale will be pretty exciting based on everything that it built in this movie. And I don't know anything about the book. I haven't read the books or the book or anything like that. So I can't really comment on what are the differences and everything like that. But I did read an article about some of the changes that they made to the characters, especially Zendaya's character. And based on what that article was saying and the character that we got from this, I think I enjoy more the changes, what they made in this. I think I enjoyed this version of that character more than what I would have enjoyed in the book. Because in the book, it sounds pretty kind of like, straightforward. Basically I'm not fighting anymore so I can have the destined one's kid and shit. This definitely is a little more compelling, and I felt like this character is a lot more compelling than this. And the last thing I'll say before I let anybody talk, yes, we talked in length last time about the whole Messiah thing and the destiny thing and how this kind of is one of those chosen one Messiah stories. The one credit I'll give this, though, is that it is a very nuanced. It's probably one of the more nuanced, creative kind of Messiah stories that I've seen in a long time. Like if the book is anything like this, this is way more than just there's a prophecy and this is what's supposed to happen and everybody's going to fall in line and it's just going to happen. This definitely feels more nuanced and more developed and more interesting than that. So I do like what they are doing with that. This whole thing about fate versus making your own choices. And is it destiny, or is it really the manipulations of people, or is it faith, or is it really more than that? I like what they're doing with that story, and that we're not just watching a foregone conclusion play out. It feels like we really are battling. Is this foregone, or is there more to it? And I do like how the movie is positioning the story and the characters in that way. So, yeah, overall, I liked it. Thought it was pretty good.
Heather, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, and it was kind of the same with the first movie, of it's good. I'm not going to say it's great. I think it's a good movie. I know a lot of people think it's a great movie, but also for me personally, I don't know what it is with these movies, but I've never been really fully invested in the entire overall story of it. And I'm not saying that they don't do the world building well and things like that, but I don't know. I just feel like for me, the acting performances, at least in this one, elevated this for me. And I cared more about individual characters and what they were specifically going to do in the movie than I necessarily cared about the overall story happening with the movie, if that makes sense. And, you know, and again, I know that's just my preference and things like that. I know so many people love this and think it's, you know, the greatest movie. And I definitely, you know, don't get me wrong, I see why people love it. I do see why, if you're a fan of Dune, you're a fan of the story, or even if you're just a fan of the first movie or whatever, I see why you would like this one. I will say I like this one better than the first one. I do agree that it does have some pacing problems. It doesn't feel as long as the first one, even though it is longer than the first one. So I do also feel a lot of that, like, length of this movie for sure. So, you know, and I get, like, it's, as my understanding is, it's a very large book that it's based off of. So I get why you need so much stuff, you know, so much content, so much screen time and all of that. But yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely, it's one of those that would go for me in the category of a sequel being better than the original. You know, I do think this was better in that regard. I liked seeing more of Zendaya's character, Chani, I think was her name. I liked her character a lot. You know, I liked her in the first one, but I mean, you just get so much more of her in this movie. And that is a very interesting character to me. I think she might have been one of my favorite characters. And, you know, if that's true about, like, the changes they made to her character, I would just be so curious to know how much they changed and, like, what changes were actually made. Cause I think they did a great job with sort of how they develop her throughout this movie. I also think that, Timothée Chalamet, I think that he did a good job as Paul. And I do think that he does a good job of showing you, like, you just see a lot of the emotion that he's feeling, just sometimes based off of not saying anything. You know, it's just kind of his facial expressions that he shows you of the burden that he's dealing with versus also the, you know, I want this and I'm very certain about this and want to make this change and all of these things. You know, and just the gentleness that he has with certain characters versus the anger that he has versus other characters, you know? So he's very good with all of that. Like, you kind of feel like, you know, where he's at and what his mindset is at any given moment in the movie because of how well he's expressing it without really even saying anything. So I think he did good in that regard. I think Austin Butler was fantastic in this. Like, I think, he really surprised me with how good he was, for me anyway. I mean, I don't think he didn't really have a ton of screen time, but it was enough for me to be invested in who is this new character, you know, who is this new villain and all of that. Yeah. And then I think Rebecca Ferguson, always brings it. I think she's a great actress, and like her face acting is like incomparable, really. Like she's just like, you look at her face and you're just like, you're expressing 10 things at one time. Like, I don't really know how you're doing that. So yeah, I think that the performances here are really what kind of drive this movie for me to give it more on the positive side. It's a beautiful movie too. I totally agree with that. Very beautiful movie. Very, very good, like cinematography. You know, even the action scenes that we do get were pretty decent, I would say. But yeah, I do feel like they linger in parts of this movie that they don't really need to linger in as long as they do. And yeah, I agree that there's, I mean, easily probably about 15, 20 minutes of this movie probably could have been cut out. You know, like it just didn't need to be quite as long in certain areas. I like the different types of worlds that we get to see in this movie. You know, where certain characters come from, and what, you know, sort of in a way, like you get to see each of their perspectives when they're on screen. You know, like when you get the new villains, you're seeing you're looking in on their life. You know what I mean? It's kind of cool how they do it, I think. And when you get Florence Pugh's character and you see just kind of what's a day in her life like. And I think that the way that they introduce you to these new people and carry you on with the existing characters, I do think they do that part well. I think they flesh out characters well in this movie. But yeah, again, like it's just not, for me, it's just not the most intriguing, like overarching story for me. So I'm very, that's kind of what's like my keeping it from being a great movie, you know, because I think the story has everything to do with it and people love this story. I'm just a little indifferent on it. It's not even because it's a bad story. And that's kind of what my conflict is with this. It's not a bad story at all, but it's just not really specifically, I guess, in a sense, like my cup of tea as much in the sci-fi realm. So I think that that's why I'm just like, it's a good movie. I think if I didn't like the performances as much as I did, I'd just be kind of like, it's an okay movie, you know, but that's just me. I mean, I think certain characters have grabbed my attention in this movie, but I don't think anything about the particular way the story has told itself grabbed me and intrigued me enough into the world the way that I wanted it to. The only thing that really did that for me was the visuals. Seeing the visuals is the only thing that kind of brought me into this world that they were showing us. So yeah, it was a good movie. Yeah, I do see why people who are a fan of this story in general like this movie a lot. For me, it's fine. You know, it's a better than fine movie. The story is fine, but the movie is better than fine because of the performances and the visuals.
In the year 2024, it is now safe to say, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't like Dune at all. Just in any conceivable way. I don't like the David Lynch movie. I don't like the miniseries that was on the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't like this. I don't like the story that is Dune. I've seen it in every conceivable way. I don't like it. I don't like it in no way, shape, or form. Do I like it? I don't like it when it's in a shorter movie. I don't like it when it's in a 6-hour long epic. I don't like it when it's in a 5-hour long epic. I just do not like Dune. And this movie goes a long way in helping me understand that I don't like it. It's long. It's a bunch of nonsense. It's a bunch of it's so much the book. It is setting up the future shit of the book. That's all this is. It's the book was written to be the first book in the series, And this is very much that. It is just written to be the setup for other shit. So at no point does it really feel like it is completed in any sort of narrative way. It is just the setup for something else. And the problem with that is if the setup doesn't hook into you, you're not going to like the rest of shit. I mean, the sad thing about this is, there's really not going to be a part 3 in the traditional sense. They can do a third movie. That's just the next book. Because this, unfortunately, was just the first book split into 2 parts. And this has been what has been constantly been made. This was the David Lynch movie. This was the series. This was this. You know what I mean? They've just all found different ways of telling the same fucking story. And yeah, they changed a little bit in this. We'll go into it a little bit later in spoilers, Heather, with what they changed a little bit with her, with especially like the what is it, Chani? We can go into that a little bit. There's some just minor changes that they did. Whether or not that changes the overall thing, I don't know. I think it does have to change it a little bit because of what the next book is supposed to be. So, I don't know. Like, they actually very much could deviate from the book franchise at this point. Who knows? But yeah, I don't like it. And honestly, that makes it worse. It really does. I mean, you guys talked about the pacing issues in the middle of the movie. When you don't like it, it feels like the movie grinds to a complete halt and just inches along for about an hour and a half, just in the middle of the movie. And like I said, I completely admit, my issues with this are the fact that I do not connect with any version of this story. So it all boils down essentially to what the book is. What is the essential elements of what makes Dune Dune? I don't connect with in the slightest. And like I said, this movie does nothing to change that. Yeah, it looks beautiful. It does. I mean, there's the scenes that are on what is it? Murder People's Planet, the Bald People Planet. I mean, those scenes are really fucking cool. They look cool, at least. They look cool. But that's kind of about it. Everything just looks really pretty. It's just a bunch of really pretty looking nonsense and garbage. That's what it felt like for me. Just the most beautiful nonsense and breathtaking garbage you can watch. Like, I can't take anything away from that. Like, production-wise, like, I think Jastin nailed it. Production-wise, there's a lot to like about this. Visually, the sound mixing was very good. The sound design, there's a lot of elements to it that work very well on a strictly movie-making basis. And to me, it's all wasted on the story of Dune. Like, couldn't they just make another space movie on a sand planet that wasn't Dune and given me the same visuals? That would have been fantastic. But unfortunately, we got this. And it just kind of felt like it was sucking the soul out of my body. Like it was draining me of my life resources. Like I was a desert planet full of spice.
Nice.
You remember there are scenes in this movie where they're sucking the water out of people. Like they're so desperate for water, they are sucking it out of people. Yeah, that's what this movie was doing to my soul. It was sucking the soul out of me, going, soul is a precious resource. We need to take it from our victims. Yeah, that's all I got. Recommendations and scores?
Sure.
Yep.
Recommendations and score.
What you got, Heather?
I mean, I'm going to recommend it, obviously, if you're a fan of the story and if you're a fan of the first movie of this like remade version. Yeah, I mean, I think that you will like it if you're a fan. Me going into, I mean, the first movie at least, and this one, of not knowing anything about the backstory or really anything about the story at all. There were still parts of it that I was able to enjoy. Again, in this one, the characters really kind of took it for me. But you just got to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into as far as commitment wise with the length of the film and just the world that they drop you into. There's a lot that they kind of, want you to follow with what's happening. So, yeah, it's a recommend if you are a fan of the story. If you're not, I mean, you might enjoy it if you're just into sci-fi, but I mean, my recommendation comes with like, if sci-fi things or sci-fi movies bore you, I don't know that this is going to necessarily be the one to change your mind on that. So, yeah, again, I think it's a good movie. I don't think it's a great movie, but that's also personal preference of types of stories that I like. I do appreciate and understand the people who do enjoy this more and, are totally invested in this movie. And I think for me, kind of like what you said, Sterling, a little bit on the like, nothing about the story particularly connects to me. So maybe that's why I have a little bit of like I don't know, more of a it's only okay type of thing with the story itself. So yeah. Aside from that though, like I said, it is good acting and it's visually beautiful. So, I mean, yeah, like if we're talking just from an actual standpoint of it as a movie and as a whole, aside from the length of it and the fact that it's not my type of story, I can appreciate this as a good film. I'm going to just give it, I'll just give it, and I'm trying to remember what I gave the first movie because I do like it better than the first movie, but I probably would reassess my score of the first movie if I was thinking now. But I'll just go ahead just because I don't.
You gave the first Dune roughly a 70.
Oh, did I? Okay. I'll give this one. Honestly, I'll give it a 75. I'll give a 75. Learning how to sandwalk out of 100.
Jastin, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's a recommend. I think it's just a good enough film to recommend. And when I think about the lineup of other movies that are available, especially just if you've got that sci-fi itch right now, I mean, this is kind of it. I mean, this is, it's got the type of cast and the visual effects and everything like that. And especially after the big first movie, and now you have this big second movie, like it's kind of the closest thing to like a Lord of the Rings or a Star Wars or something like that. If you got the itch for something kind of like that, these big epic things with these big cast and epic scale type of movies, I mean, this is kind of it right now. This is pretty much, if you're going to the movies for that, this is pretty much the option that you have. And I think this is one of those movies that justifies seeing it in a theater. Visually, it just looks so impressive and it sounds so amazing and it's just so great to look at. Like, this is one of those where, you know, sure, you could watch it at home, but I just don't know if that would really do it justice. It was fun watching this on the biggest, you know, what do they say nowadays? Watch it on the biggest screen possible. Well, this is kind of, you know, if that movie, this kind of defines that whole thing. Like, you know, you got to see this on the screen. It has that kind of scale. It has those kinds of visuals. It has that kind of look and feel and style going for it in that way. So I would say catch it in theaters because I think it would be worth your time to see it there. And you'll probably like it more because you'll like what you're looking at rather than being at home where, you know, it's just not going to look as good on your TV or whatever. I will say that, though, that if you saw the first movie and were intrigued by that one, then I think that you'll probably like and be intrigued by this one for the most part. It's just more of a lot of the same stuff, but except things are more fleshed out. Some of the characters that they add here seem like cooler characters. They seem like a little more important characters. And I think, and like I said, I think the story moves the characters along better because we're not spending as much time establishing. So things are happening that is affecting the characters, and it just feels more effective than what was happening to them in the first film. So I just feel like if you enjoyed the first one, you'll probably enjoy this more because it's just got better stuff. It's the same stuff, but it's just a little bit better stuff than in the first movie. And it is long. But I think it's a good long. You know, I don't think it was a punishing long. I just think, you know, I question if we needed everything, but for the most part, it was a good long. I didn't not enjoy what I was looking at for the most part. You know, I think it's the story is intriguing enough and compelling enough, and it looks good enough to where it, even with the long runtime, I feel like I liked more of it than I didn't like. So yeah, I can recommend it for all of those things. I thought it was a pretty fun movie. You know, get the large bucket of popcorn, get your large drink, and, you know, I would say watch it at the movie theater. Don't wait. You know, I think it's good enough visually to where you will appreciate what you see in the movie theater. With as far as a score, we'll go. I don't know. I probably was about I think the first film I gave it somewhere between 75 and 80. I think. And I do think this is much better. So we'll go yeah, we'll go 88. Water sucking good times out of 100.
That just sounds dirty.
Yes.
You know, I'm gonna go on a limb here. I'm not gonna recommend it. I did not have a good time. The single best thing about this movie was that I mixed essentially goobers and raisinets with my popcorn. That was delicious. That was the single best thing about watching this movie. Got a large popcorn, got some chocolate covered peanuts, some chocolate covered raisins, mixed them all up, poured them on my popcorn. Good. That was delightful.
What's your score for that?
Oh, that's easily a 95. 95. Oh, I was so mad when I ran out of that. Because I easily had like 2 hours and 15 minutes left of this movie when I had finished my popcorn raisinette goober combination. And that was the worst. Because like I was riding so high on that. And this movie went, hey, Sterling, we're feeling a little bit dehydrated. We need some of your soul real quick. And then they sucked it right out. I mean, this movie really is the equivalent of going on a bad date with a pretty person. Like, it's not a fun time, but, you know, at least you have something good to look at for a little while, because that's all you got. Because that's all that's there. I'm really going to kill the average of this movie. And I'm sorry. I'll give it a 40. 40 little rat fucks that become the inspiration for your Messiah. Out of 100. That puts the Cinescore at a 68. Yeah, sorry guys. I told you I was going to kill the average. But
Speak your truth about it.
I had to go with my heart. And I don't like Dune. Spoilers?
Yeah.
Yep.
Spoilers.
This movie had the audacity to sit there and like waste an actor. And I still don't know how I feel about that. Like, I kind of get why they did it. But when you sit there and you have Anya Taylor-Joy in your movie, and she's essentially relegated to one scene on camera and the rest is all voice work, it kind of hurts my soul a little bit.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now I get it, because the character she plays in the grand scheme of the franchise goes on to be an important character. And I think if they do end up making other movies based on the other books, that'll be more important. But like, I don't get why they made some of the changes they made. One change from the book to this that is present in the other iterations of this, you know, visually or cinematically, I should say. Technically the sister is born and is like 2 or 3 years old in the book and in the other movies and TV series and all that shit. She is like, because there's a big time jump in that, you know, whilst they're attacking, you know, and doing their like insurgency shit and all this other stuff, about 2 years happens over that time. And they decided to not do that in this. And I think part of it is because they didn't want to have a creepy 2-year-old that says shit. Because I'm not gonna lie, when you actually see that, like the what's his name, the David Lynch version, it's weird because it's like they obviously have an adult woman doing a little kid voice, and this just little girl just sitting there going, like moving her mouth, and then they just dub it over. It's weird. So I get that aspect of wanting to avoid that, but it's still very weird. And like I said, it's weirdly an important part that, you know, I guess they bypassed, but it's like, what is that going to end up serving? You know, because, you know, she in the book, because I'm spoiling the book. I don't care because it's been spoiled in other movies. It doesn't matter. The baby sister is the one that kills the Baron. It's not, what's his name? Pete, Paul, whatever the fuck his name is.
Paul.
Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Paul.
That guy. He's not the one that kills the Baron in the book. She does. She poisons him. The little baby does. Because it's one of the things they allude to in this, because the baby has all the knowledge of the Reverend Mother. Because since she took the water of life whilst pregnant, the baby got it too. So it's not that crazy. That's why the baby can talk. That's why the baby can do all this stuff, is it has just complete universal knowledge, you know, as a baby. Or I guess technically as a toddler. You know, so there's that aspect of it. The Chani relationship is weird that they changed that, though. Because at the end of this, I mean, this is the end of this movie. Chani is mad at Better Call Saul. She's mad at him. And she like goes and runs away, or is implying that she's going to go ride a worm and get away from him. That is a big departure from the book and the other movies, because in those, she's very much just a firm believer. And she's like, hey, I don't care if you are going to go marry, you know, Space Princess. I'm still with you and all this other stuff. So I get from why Jastin would say, though, it's a good change because she does have more agency as a character in this movie. She's got like her own arc. She's got some independence. She's got characteristics. She's just not a supportive woman character. So they added a lot of depth to her. I applaud that. Problem is, the rest of the story directly requires her to just be kind of in his corner and still with him. Because, you know, they have to have the kids. Because their kids play a big part in the later stories. I'm not going to spoil anything else, and I don't really think that that's a spoiler. Because that's literally the other books are about their kids. You know, so that's going to be a weird reconciliation of they're going to have to spend time in another movie. If they continue this going, they're going to have to spend time in another movie getting them back together to have the kids that the rest of the shit's based on. That's a weird change to me. I like her having independence and agency. But do you have to have her go, fuck this shit, I'm out at the end of the movie? When that's kind of something that is needed for the rest of this story to happen. Now you're going to have to go and create shit just to fix the problems that you created. That's weird to me. That's also, to me, bad storytelling. If you're adapting something, why are you adding stuff to create problems you have to create solutions to that none of that's in the source material? Not even close. I think you could have made her independent and all this other stuff, but I think you could have also had her realize the rationalization of him ending up with Space Princess also might mean peace for the galaxy and might lead to the freeing of the Freeman, you know. So I don't know. Just makes no sense to me. Because every other adaptation I've seen of this, that's what it is. Chani is with him in the end. So it's a big difference. But like I said, I do agree with you, Jastin. I like the fact that the way they had Chani was a little bit skeptical.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit of don't be up on your own shit. Because I think it does add some interesting dynamics with her and Pedro Pascal and what he was doing. I just, like I said, I don't know what you're actually serving the rest of this narrative with when you do that. You know, it was nice seeing Christopher Walken back. Haven't seen him in a minute. It was nice to see Christopher Walken. I wish it was in something else. But it's nice to see that man can still move around and do some stuff. You know, no, Dave Bautista was fine in this. I did for the most part.
To mention him.
I was kind of okay with Austin Butler in this. You know, he did an okay job trying to make me forget that he played Elvis. I was like, okay, Austin Butler, I see that you're trying to do other stuff. Okay, you don't want to just ride the coattails of that, you know, horrible glorification movie you did of a garbage bastard of a person. I see that. And apparently he can act a little bit. That's nice. He does a really good Peter Skarsgård impression.
Yeah, the voice sounded like dead on. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently that's all he was trying to do was mimic Baron Harkin, the Peter Skarsgård version of that. Pretty much nails it. I was like, okay, I see that. I liked that he was a little bit more of a sociopath than what's his name? Sting was in the other movie. You know. But yeah, in the end, you know, you get this story with the political intrigue and the manipulations of you know, an overarching religious group and all of these things. You get all these themes and whatnots about colonialism and all of this other stuff, and it just kind of gets muddled by them just throwing a bunch of parts of shit in here. Which, like I said, means that this is, it's like I said, it's the setup movie. Apparently the original book, at the back of the book comes with a glossary of just all the fucking bullshit that is, you know, like Dune specific words and all this other shit. It comes with a glossary to help you understand what the fuck you're reading. Because it's just a bunch of made up shit. And I think you really kind of feel that in this. I think you feel that it is just a bunch of made up shit at this point. That what it becomes isn't realized. So it's a little empty. It's a little beginner. It's a little bit shallow and unfleshed out. Which is kind of sad considering how much shit they are just throwing at you constantly. There's so much. This movie is dense with shit, but also relatively shallow because it's just the establishment story. It's just the beginning. And I don't think this movie, like, I think if you're going to change shit, I think you change shit to kind of close it a little bit. Just in case you don't get to make, I want to say the next movie should be Dune Messiah. would be the next book. If I'm remembering correctly, book 2 is Dune Messiah. So that would be, the third movie would be that. And probably knowing this shit, it'd be Dune Messiah Part 1.
Yeah,
because you would need to get Dune Messiah Part 2 and 3 to do all this. But I just think that this movie is aching for that. And to me, that's kind of the bad thing of a franchise movie or something like that. We've had too many movies that are parts of franchise and are establishment movies and franchises and all of this shit that do a good enough story of that's open and closed within itself, but also has elements that are open-ended for the franchise aspects. I don't think this movie does that itself. Also, Javier Bardem's character kind of bothered me. I get that he was supposed to be the devout religious fanatic, but oh my God, he felt like he wanted to just fillet Timothée Chalamet's character the entire movie. Everything he did was just like, oh my God, he's the savior. He's like, did you see that? He, walked in the sand. Oh my God, he's the savior. Did you see how he poured that tea? Savior. Everything. And it just the movie just would, every time he did anything, they would just spend the next 45 seconds of just a mid to close shot of Javier Bardem's face, of him being like, oh, the savior. It was kind of repetitive and annoying. How do you make that man not charming? And somehow they fucking succeeded. Heather, what about you? What are your spoilery thoughts about this movie?
I mean, and I totally forgot for a second about Dave Bautista being in this. I think he did a good job in it. I just really love him. I think he's great. And then, I think that, I don't know. I feel like my bigger problem, and not really problem with this, but I would say that just the part that I would say was the weakest part of this movie was, I don't know. I feel like while they did put you in the different worlds of the characters and where they're from, I don't know. I feel like, it didn't feel necessarily like seamless transitions between them. It kind of felt a little bit here's the movies that do the chapter 1, chapter 2, type of things, I feel like this movie could have done that. And it kind of would have just, that could have been the way to separate out the characters and all of that until they end up kind of coming together and meeting in some different ways, But, I think that, and maybe that's what maybe that's why it felt like the pacing was a little bit slow for me, is because it's not even a beat by beat thing, but I just feel like it was maybe the word I'm looking for is uninspired, I think, in how they're doing some of the transitions, or I don't know. And not that the movie's uninspired, but just that, I don't know. I feel like some of the things that they're trying to tell you in this movie felt like, they're using filler time, but they don't need to be doing it, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I feel like maybe that's what my issue with it is. But, and that is, it is interesting to know that they kind of change up Chani's character. I agree too. I think that her being this more rebellious, the only one essentially not following Paul in the same way as everybody else. And kind of, I liked that sort of juxtaposition of, because she knows him the best is why she's not doing that. And I thought that was a really cool element to add into the movie though, I will say that I think that the story between the two of them was probably the most interesting thing of the movie to me, just because I did like the way that they played off of each other, and they did have a good chemistry. But I really liked the idea of, everybody's worshiping him and bowing down to him and all these things. And she's just like, no, I'm not doing that, like just for one, to keep him humble in a sense, because she knows like he's kind of watching her, but also just because she's like, this just doesn't feel right to me. It's like, I know him and I know like, I just her continued worry about Paul, that he's going to get too power hungry or get too, wanting it, when he kept telling her like, I don't care about that. I don't want that. Like, so it's almost like she's hesitant to, give in and worship him in the same way, because she is so afraid of what he's going to do with the power that he's going to get, and I think that, I don't know. I feel like she kind of, in a way, has the most sort of like full fleshed out arc in this movie, or fleshed out at least growth or change in this movie. But yeah, like all of that to say, I did really like that her character was like, no, I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing this for my people. I'm doing this for my home, and her motivation was a lot more pure. Her motivation was a lot more like, I'm not just going to stand beside this guy. I'm going to just actually like fight for the thing that I believe in. I don't know. I liked that she was sort of because she was the one closest to him. She's also the one that was like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, this is not you. I don't like this. I feel weird about it. Like you could just see how, as it progressed, what Paul was doing and how Paul was reacting to the people thinking that he was the one or whatever. She was just like, I'm just not on board. I'm just more and more not on board with this. And I did like that, because I wondered if there was going to be that kind of tropey moment in it where, they have the conversation and then she's like, okay, fine. She starts to give in, or starts to like do what everybody else is doing. And I feel like that would have been a little bit of a mistake to do that, because they just spent this whole movie building up her arc of like, she's independent and she's doing this for her people and she's fighting for, her own home and her own family and everything, just to be like, okay, fine, you're right, I'll follow you now. I think that would have been misguided to do that. So I do like the way that they kind of do this for her in the movie. And yeah, like like Austin Butler, I think he, like, I don't know, there was just something about, if I'm being honest, he actually probably was, for me, the most fascinating thing about the movie, because it was just like, he was such a wild card. Like, you didn't really ever fully know what he was going to be doing. And so it was kind of fun and intriguing to be like, is he about to kill somebody, or is he about to like just intimidate them so much that they're terrified of him forever? Like, you just never knew what his actions were fully going to be. And I liked that about his character, because it just brought this kind of like, I don't know, it brought some sort of different mysterious energy to the movie that I was needing, just because I think, I mean, if you take Austin Butler, I don't know how you say the name of his character, but if you took his character out of the movie, I mean, it definitely would have been a lesser movie, if I'm being honest. I just think that his character was very needed to bring a little bit more life to this film. So I'm glad that he was there for the time he was. And to be honest, I thought he was going to be surviving on to the next movie, if they do a next movie. I feel like, because this movie did feel like it was a lot of, we're building up to something really big, this holy war and all of that. I thought that it was building up so much where it was like, we're not even going to get to the point where Paul and Austin Butler's character meet, but, and then they had a really good fight scene that I really liked. And that was probably also one of the better parts of the movie. But I think honestly, yeah, like I feel like all the scenes I liked best were the scenes of him fighting in some capacity. But yeah, like I liked that scene a lot, but I was just surprised because I feel like he was built up as this big bad, and then he was taken out more quickly than I expected, just considering everything. So, and I mean, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing just because I don't know the story of Dune, but it's a kind of a shame though, because I think he was a really great villain and he could have used more screen time, and I would have been fine seeing him, you know, in the next installment of this franchise, you know, but yeah, like I feel like he brought life to this movie more than a lot of the other characters did. And yeah, I just think that, I don't know. I feel like also I was a little bit confused what was going on with, Rebecca Ferguson's character. I don't know. I feel like she was going through a whole lot of different stuff, and it almost felt like she was slowly losing her mind. And I know it's because, you know, she became, what was it? The Reverend Mother? Is that what she was called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's, you know, she's got like, she became different. Yes. But like, I just wasn't entirely sure what direction they were trying to go with her character. Maybe that was me missing it, but I just feel like, you know, it slowly feels like at any like snap of a finger, she could actually become the villain of this movie and this franchise.
I mean, I can clarify a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so like she was like, what is it? Beignet Jesuit or whatever the hell they're called. She was one of them. And so she was already kind of steeped in the bullshit and the religion, you know, all that stuff anyway. And when she drank the water of life, you know, she gains all the knowledge of all the previous Reverend Mothers. And one of the things that kind of also changed her with that is the fact that she was pregnant. And so she was more or less psychically communicating with her daughter, who also had all of the knowledge of the previous Reverend Mothers. So there, I think part of it, whenever she first becomes Reverend Mother for a little bit, I think part of it is like the adjustment to that she's literally got another being inside of her that has, you know, like a universal knowledge and also has the ability to see the future. Talking to her, you know.
Okay.
So there was that adjustment with that. And that's why she was always like talking to herself and kind of scatterbrained and all this other stuff. Is that was a constant thing that she more or less could not escape. She cannot escape the fact that her daughter that was inside her could talk to her, you know, whenever she wanted. But that's why she kind of calms down a little bit towards the end of the movie when it comes to that aspect of it, because she was used to it by then. Like
she had adjusted to it. Okay.
And all of those things. It's, you know, I think part of it is also the adjustment of being the Reverend Mother. Like I said, you get flooded with all of the knowledge of every Reverend Mother like before you. So not only are you being, you know, swarmed with knowledge, she had that other aspect too. And like I said, she adjusts to it and all this other stuff. And, you know, so that means she knows the plan that the other Reverend Mothers and all these other people had. Like she was a part of it anyway, but she also now knew more of their plans because she had that. She was seeing visions of the future. You know, she was having all of those aspects. And, you know, it's just the more she was channeling that and understanding that is why, you know, she was different as the movie went on. And I think it's just it's part of the overarching plot of the series and all this other stuff of what the, I think technically is the Bene Gesserit, what they think or what their machinations are. And I think part of it is she's playing into that. Part of it, she's playing into her own schemes with that, all kinds of stuff. But that's kind of the overarching thing that kind of goes with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, and I guess that makes sense. I don't know. It just felt like at points that she was slowly somebody who was going to be turning into the villain, and so I don't know. It wasn't clear to me, and maybe it's because it went over my head, but yeah, no, that does help clarify it up a bit. But I mean, I think she was doing a fantastic job with like just the conflict and the the weight and the heaviness that she had on her. Like, I do feel like she did do that well. I was just a little bit off or thrown off by like, I didn't know which direction they were taking with her. But yeah, that does make sense. Although I do wonder, like, I don't know why. I mean, maybe they thought that she would get kicked out and be killed anyway if she did mention it. But I'm like, I would have mentioned at that point when they're like, drink this. I would have been like, oh, but I can't drink it because I'm pregnant. It's like, I know you guys need, but she might have just been too afraid that they would say, oh, if you can't drink it, then you're out of here. Maybe that's why she didn't say anything. But I was just like, man, I would have taken that opportunity to be like, sorry, I can't drink that because I have a baby in me, But yeah, then obviously it's like, yeah, she probably was just too scared because, I mean, it's not like she really, kind of like what she said too. She's like, I don't really have a choice here. So I feel like, yeah, maybe that's why. But and Javier Bardem, he was a little bit over the top with his like literally everything that Paul did was like, see, obviously he is the one. But it was kind of funny. And in general, his character was silly enough to like, I mean, I guess I liked his character a little bit better than you did, Sterling, but I do agree. I mean, typically in, any other role or situation, he's a much more charming, charismatic person, but, maybe a testament to his acting abilities. But yeah, and also agree about Anya Taylor-Joy, like that, like it makes me feel like, okay, good. So perhaps whatever installment is next will be better because Anya Taylor-Joy is phenomenal. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, like she had 1 minute of screen time or talking time total pretty much. So that's a bummer, and maybe that's why they weren't heavily like, I mean, she was doing a lot of the, red carpet stuff, but like, maybe that's why they weren't like really promoting too much that she was in the movie.
It's very much, Zendaya all over again. Like Zendaya
teasing
in the
it
first
a little
movie,
bit,
like doing all the red carpet shit, doing all this shit, barely in that movie. And it's the same type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, yeah, and again, it was interesting to see the transformation of Paul throughout this movie. And I do think, yeah, he did a really good job of you just seeing him slowly changing into, like, okay, I'm going to be what these people think I am. And I'm going to just lean into it and, wanting that power and like just making these decisions that if he was just his normal self and not taking on the weight of this responsibility that he now feels he has, he would never have made, like just the fact of how Chani was so taken aback by him being like, okay, I'll marry your daughter and I'll keep her safe. That whole thing. And it just completely threw her off. Just making these things that are like, yeah, he's doing things he believes are best for the future and best for the plan ahead and all of that stuff. But like, yeah, it just feels like it was the quickest turn from him being like, oh, I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt anybody and whatever to this, So I did think it was an interesting transformation that he did. And he was able to play kind of both sides of that really well. Yeah, definitely could have used more Florence Pugh. Definitely could have used more Christopher Walken. I think they were both good for the parts that they were in. It's Stellan Skarsgård, right? That's who was in this movie?
Yes.
That was
Peter.
I don't think you did. I just don't. There's so many Skarsgårds. I just couldn't remember.
I think Peter is actually his name in the Thor movies.
Oh, maybe. Could be.
But yeah, you're right. Stellan Skarsgård.
Yeah. He's the father of the others, right? Yeah. Okay. but yeah, he was great too. You know what I mean? Like, I think he did a good job, and I'm not going to say it wasn't satisfying to see him die. Like, that was definitely a long time coming, and I was ready for that. So yeah, but I honestly just the adventure and the, you know, journey that Chani and Paul had was, I would have been fine with more of that and less of some of the other in between things that could have been cut out. But yeah, I don't know. Again, visually, like, I think this visually tells a better story. You know, like, you just see, even when you look, the scene when Paul is walking through that insane crowd of people, like, just, it looked like people for miles around him, and he's coming through. Like, that was a really cool scene, and really started to show, like, the gravity of what's happening and the gravity of the situation and what these people think. And I think that was really well shown to us in that visual. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that, yeah, the visuals definitely are the thing that help you know how to feel more than the story itself and how they necessarily progress it. But yeah, I don't know. There's not, and that's the thing, like, this movie has a lot of things in it, but it's like, other than Sterling, what you've already sort of talked about, I feel like there's not a whole lot of things to really spoil about the film, you know, because it's, yeah, I feel like it's kind of already been said, but I don't know. I feel like, the character that Jastin was talking about, Josh Brolin's character, he was good too. He definitely also could have used a little bit more screen time from him, because it was hard to know also, like, what role and how big of a role he was going to play here too. But yeah, I think his return was a really good point of the movie. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of, it's one of those movies that you have to sort of appreciate the things about it that you can if you're not fully into the story. And I do feel like I was able to do that. You know, I was able to enjoy the performances and enjoy the visuals of this, even though I'm not into the full story of it. But yeah, I don't know. It does make me curious how they're going to do the next movie, and whatever that means. If it even carries on with the same characters, because I know they get new characters in the other books. So yeah, that's kind of all I have for right now.
Jastin, what you got?
All right. So with this, I think what I appreciated more about this than the first movie is, like, just some of the journeys of the characters, like our main character, Paul. I felt like, going back and watching that first movie, I felt like all around him, people are saying, okay, there's this prophecy, there's this thing that you're supposed to do. And, you know, you have this destiny that you have to fulfill. And Paul very much struck me as a character that, you know, everybody's saying these things, but he very much felt like but what about what I want to do type of character. It felt like he was being pulled all these directions. I really liked the conversation he had with his father in the first film, when he's like, basically, why do I have to do all of these things? Why can't I just do what I want? You know, what about what I want? Why do I have to accept this destiny or fall into this place and everything like that? And his father basically was like, well, you know, when I started off, I didn't want to be this either. You know, this wasn't the role that I thought I wanted to be. I just wanted to be a pilot, but I grew into the role, and maybe you will grow into it as well. I hope that it grows into you as well. And then, Paul was like, but what if it doesn't? What if I never want to accept this or do this? And then his father was kind of like, well, you may not want to do it, but you'll still be my son and I'll still love you. There was a very good moment in that first film. But I said all that to say, it always felt like Paul was this character that was like, well, everybody is saying I'm supposed to do these things. I've got this society of witches who basically have come up with this prophecy and have spread it to all these different societies and tried to like influence the freemen that way, almost down to where not only is it a story about this Messiah, but they are crossbreeding people. They are going to, and they essentially have all of these different potential people who are supposed to be who could potentially be the Messiah. And the whole point is that they are trying to create a Messiah that they can control. Or at least that's the impression that I'm getting from the Bene Gesserit witch people, is that they are trying to create this leader that they can control. That's what it feels like to me. But what I like about Paul and his growth and everything like that is that but it seems like they sort of have created this monster, so to speak, where Paul is sort of becoming this Messiah in some ways, but he doesn't feel like somebody that they could control. And so I think that was like the interesting thing about that, is that so while he's growing into this role, it also felt like he is very much doing it for a lot of his own reasons. Like at the beginning of the movie, it's not just, all right, guys, now that I'm here with the Freeman, I'm just going to become this Messiah. The film was good about showing you his very specific motivations. All he really wanted was revenge at first. He was driven by that. His father was killed. Basically, his family and his people were slaughtered. So at first, this character is just driven by that. He wants to get back at the emperor, and he's like, well, if I can do something, if I can manipulate and halt their ability to cultivate spice, then he's going to have to come after me. That's the only way, that's the real way that we can hurt him and hurt the emperor and those people, is whoever controls the spice, that's who really controls things, because that's the resource of, and that's the reason why all this is happening. So I like how he kind of started as this person that was like, so I've got to affect them politically. I've got to affect the main resource that everybody's trying to get. And that's how I'm going to get back at him. And I think that Javier Bardem's character, the devout believer, Stilgar, I think was his name. He's significant too. To me, he felt really significant because you had to be able to show both sides of this thing. You have these people who just believe the story and they're like, oh yes, he's the whatever they call it, the whatever Al-Ghib or whatever that term, he's the Messiah and he's going to come and he's going to do all these great feats and he's going to really save our people. So I like how you had half of the Freemen who bought in and believed in that, and that was represented by him. But on the other side of it, and this is where Zendaya's character Chani comes in, you have this other part of the society though that didn't believe in that. And, you know, there was even that part where she's conversing with some of the other freemen and she's like, yeah, the Southerners believe that. You know, they come from the South and they're the ones that believe that there's going to be this Messiah and he's going to save us all and everything like that. But what I loved about her character is that she was on the other side as far as she just believed in the freemen and their own abilities to free themselves. So I like that there were two different representations of this. You know, you had Javier over here who's the devout, oh, yes, this is going to happen. But you have this other character that's like, no, it is us. It is what we decide to do. It is us that are paving our own path and our own destiny. And I think that's necessary, especially in a story like this. And this is what I mean by, in the non-spoilers, that this is a lot more nuanced than kind of the typical Messiah stories that I get, because I like that you have two characters that are essentially good people. You know, they're considered good people in this story, but they have differing views on how their people are going to get free. And, you know, so you can see the differing viewpoints, and both, though, are trying to do the same thing. You know, they're trying to free themselves from all this oppression and this tyranny and all of these people that are trying to take advantage of them because of spices and stuff. And the freemen just very much want to be free people. They just want that. So, but because of those representative characters, you can also see the different directions that it's pulling Paul, because he is falling in love with somebody who I guess you could say is a non-believer. You know what I mean? But then he's also has the pressure of these people who are following him and truly believe he is this Messiah person. But then he's also got his own motivations. And what he's trying to do is get back at his family, you know, is take revenge for what happened to his family and everything. And but also he's just somebody who is trying to live his own life. You know, he doesn't want to feel like all of these things are controlling him. He wants to feel like he has control. So I liked all of that. I think Paul is a very rich character in a way, like because of all of these different things happening to him and all these different directions, everybody is trying to pull him. So I liked all of that. I liked how, in a way, he's coming into this role, but he's not quite doing things the way that they saw him doing things. And the movie is, I feel like, doing that on purpose. They're constantly telling you that. Like whenever his mother drank the water of life, the poison or whatever, and survived. And you know, Javier Bardem's character was like, well, of course she survived. That was written, you know, I believe, and that's what is supposed to happen. But Paul said something, but Paul didn't go, oh, yeah, you're right, Javier, I believe. He was like, my mom is a member of one of those people. She's trained to do this kind of stuff. She has these incredible mental powers that were trained and honed, and she's been a part of this society of witches for a long time. So she survived because of her training, not because this is something meant to happen. And, you know, that's just one example. They also did it towards the end when Javier Bardem expected him to kind of tell everybody that he was this, to kind of tell everybody he is this Messiah because of these visions and what he was going to do and everything like that. But they put a little wrinkle in there where Paul actually went a different direction and said, no, that's not why you should follow me. You should follow me because now I can see these things. And he picked out two people that were in the crowd and said, I know what happened to you and I saw what happened to you and I have these visions and everything. So whether you believe I'm the guy or not, I can see these things. So you should follow me because I can see I've seen some of the things that have happened in your life. And after drinking this, I kind of know the path that we need to go. So I don't know if I'm this perfect Messiah person, but I do know I can see things, and is that because of the bloodline that I come from, where I also have some of these psychic abilities and can also do some of those things. So I like that Paul I like all the things that this character is juggling. I think that really makes for a compelling character. And I like that Zendaya's character, Shani, was not falling in love with the mystique and Messiah story that was Paul, but she was falling in love with the actual person Paul was, the practical person he was, the sincere person he was, the fact that he was like, look, this is what I want to do, and this is my goal. So maybe I have to do this for right now. Maybe, they have to believe I'm this, but this is what I actually believe, and this is who I am. And he was sharing most of that with her. And like you were saying, Heather, she knew who the real him was. So you understood why they were falling into a relationship. You understood that because they could be real with each other in that way. And she began to love the sincerity of him, as far as it wasn't about being this leader or being from this great house or anything like that. There was more to Paul than all of that stuff and all of these things that people say he should be. So I just liked all of that. And then in the second half of the movie, when we get to go to the Harkonnens, the Harkonians, whatever they're called, the Skarsgård.
Well, it was the family Harkonnen.
People.
I don't know what their planet's called. They could be like all called Harkonnens, whatever, but yeah. It was.
I think it starts with an A. I can't remember all the man. There are so many terms and names.
There was Arrakis, but that was the planet. That was the desert planet.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, Arrakis was the desert planet. Yeah, I don't. Man, there were so many. There's so many planets and names and stuff.
That's
and
why,
like I said,
that's why I brought up the fact that the book had a glossary to go over all this shit. Because it's just a bunch of fucking shit.
And, maybe if I had watched all the Dune shit up until this point, I would know the planets and be up to, I've watched a lot of the Star Wars shit. So I know what Hoth is. I know what, if you watch this shit and follow this shit, and that's kind of how it is with sci-fi shit. Some people gravitate to Star Wars shit. Some people gravitate to Star Trek shit. Some people gravitate to this Dune shit. I just wasn't a person that, or what is it? Battlestar Galactica or fucking Stargate. There are people have their allegiances with this shit. And being that I'm not a person that ever followed this, I didn't even know Dune existed until this last new Dune movie came out. And that's when I started finding out, there was this old movie and all this stuff. I didn't know nothing about this shit. Maybe if I followed this shit more, I'd know all the names and terms, but just looking at it at face value, I don't know everything, but I can see how a person could like some of this stuff. You know, I could see how this story could be compelling to someone. So whenever we go to like the Harken planet, and we're seeing what's happening with this Messiah, you know, the Austin Butler, this version of it, and how these people are manipulating that situation and trying to get him to be this. Maybe he's the one who could be this potential Messiah. And, you know, they even said it. I think that main witch even said, you know, Florence Pugh was like, man, he's a psychopath. You know what I mean? And she was like, but we can control that motherfucker. You know, we can, we know what he is. We know what he wants. We can manipulate him and we can control him. So to me, that's what this all seemed like. Who is the figurehead, the Messiah, the leader that we can control? And that's what we're going to do. We're going to manipulate things because we want a figurehead that we can ultimately control. And I mean, I don't think you have to necessarily be a religious person or anybody like that to relate to that, because how often have we said in our own government that and how many times have we speculated that there have been conspiracies, murders, assassinations, things of that nature in order to cut off people that we couldn't control and instead keep the people alive that we feel like we can. I mean, so this is not anything that's foreign. You know, all of this is like, when you look at it, when you take it outside of just the Dune shit and you just look at the politics of everything that is happening, a lot of this feels familiar in that way. You know, the conspiracies and the what are our true intentions and trying to control someone. So you understand why Paul is the protagonist, because he feels like somebody who these people are either going to struggle with to control or they're just not going to be able to control. But it's because of all those other human elements of him. It's because of this relationship he's going to have with Chani. It's because of where he comes from and who his father was. And, you know, there was even that part where the Baron, where Skarsgård was like, you know, I killed your father because he was weak and everything. And yeah, he was trying to like be a dick, but because of who Paul's father is one of the very reasons why he's the protagonist. It's why, you know, I feel like he's not going to be someone they can control and different things like that. So your understanding of all these messiahs they're trying to create, you're starting to understand why this one is different. Like going through this journey with him, you're beginning to understand what makes him him and why he's different and why maybe he's not going to fall into this divine plan. Or at least I think. I haven't read any of the books, but this is just what I'm getting, the sense I'm getting from this narrative. You know, this is how it's all making sense to me and why I'm finding it compelling. And what I think is even more intriguing is once he drank from the water of life, we saw the changes that it was making with his mom when she drank it. And I would imagine after you have all the infinite knowledge of all of these reverend mothers and all of these psychic people like in the universe that have ever existed, I imagine just having all those visions and thoughts would change you. Like, that's a lot to take in for one brain and one person. And that's a lot of like back and forth responsibility. And now you have potentially a child who is unborn, but is so intelligent and is so able to comprehend everything that y'all are psychically talking. You're psychically talking to someone inside yourself. So I couldn't imagine being that woman at all and what that must be like. But now you have Paul who's drank that, and now he's seeing all these visions, and now things are a little more clear what were dreams and what he could kind of see because of his lineage with his mother on the mother's side. Now things are more clear. So he felt like he had to embrace this role and rally everybody behind him and everything like that, because now he feels like, okay, I have to do this because I have to lead us this way because the alternative is worse. So I feel like, you know, you can see that this is not all him, but that he's being pulled a direction. But I can see the struggle. I can see later there being this kind of struggle to control some of this himself and not just fall into what has been written, so to speak, for him to do. And I think that that's where Chani comes in. I like where we left this at the end, because it feels like even though he has accepted that, okay, I'm going to marry into this royal family and that's how we're going to gain this ultimate peace. And then where it left with Chani, I just feel like there's going to be a back and forth with that. And there's going to have to be more to that story. And to me, that's compelling. Like, I think if we had just ended with Chani accepting this and it's like, all right, cool, now it's time to be your concubine, I just don't know if that's as a compelling of a cliffhanger as this and what we got here and everything like that. So given, and after reading about all the changes that they made to this character and the independence that they gave this character, the fact that this character just believes in her people and their ability to control their own destiny, I think that is a great character, and that's a great ideal that you have to challenge this whole destiny messiah thing. So I want to see what happens in the next movie. I like this whole thing of what Paul should do versus what he wants to do, who he has to marry versus who he actually loves, and all of that kind of stuff. I think all of this is compelling. And even though this, I guess, is the end of the Harkonnens, whatever you call them, because in the first movie, it seemed like they were the big bads, but they all just kind of got murked. So I guess we're setting up for what are even bigger bads to come that you know, we're going to have to reestablish and stuff like that with this holy war that's coming and everything. But that would be my only thing is the Austin Butler character. That was a good fight. I agree with you, Heather. He went out like a G when that was a good fight. I did find Batista's exit a little disappointing. I thought that him and Josh Brolin were going to throw down and have like this really good fight and everything like that. And that was just like, he just wrecked that fool. And that was just quick as fuck. And that I was like, oh, damn, man, that's it for Batista after 4 hours, you know, or 4 hours of what it was, you know?
Well, part of that is to show what the Harkonnens really were. The Harkonnens aren't really a strong combative force. The Nah Baron, you know, Fredo, whatever, fucking Austin Butler's character, he was kind of the exception with that. That I'm willing to be in your face. I'm willing to do these things. I'm willing to get blood on my hand. Whereas for the most part, the Harkonnens are like, I'll poison you. I'll do some shady shit. I'll do the deceptive killing. When they're faced with true, like a true combative nature or something like that, when it's in their face, they are relatively cowardice. You know, they are just very much used to being, like I said, the shady assholes that poison you and do all the deceptive stuff. Or they'll come in at night, like, you know, whenever they attacked House Atreides, you know, there was a betrayer in the House of Atreides, and, you know, all of these things that led up to it. It wasn't just a straight up, no, we're going to go muscle for muscle and we're going to beat you. We're going to come in the dead of night. We're going to have people having betrayed you because we know we can't actually stand up to you. And I think that kind of shows, like, with the whole Batista thing, like, sure, he'll kill a family in the middle of the night when they're defenseless. But it's like, oh, you're going to actually stand up to me and you're going to actually try to kill me. And, you know, all these things kind of has a cowardice nature to him. You know, happens whenever he also fights his brother. Gets his ass kicked real quick. You know, and because also that brother, you know, the Na Baron is like you said, Jastin, was more or less the Harkonnen version of Paul, you know, being trained and manipulated and genetically engineered to be that person. And that's one reason why he would argue he's vastly different than the rest of the Harkonnens. You know, because you get a taste of that in the first movie when the Baron poisons that entire room of people. You know, that's how they actually deal with stuff. So I thought it was actually a very fitting end for Dave Bautista's character, the Beast. Because he's kind of a little bitch. Like when push comes to shove, he's a little bitch.
Okay. That's interesting. I just didn't get that sense from him in the first film. He just seemed to be the one out there on the front lines. He was out there fighting with the armies and all of that kind of stuff and stuff blowing up and stuff. Like they made it seem like his character and the Josh Brolin character were kind of on the
two sides of the same
at
coin.
an equal place. On opposite sides. That's what it felt like to me. That's what I saw when, and I get what you're saying about them being underhanded and doing all the underhanded stuff. And that's par for the course. We know that because of just how they killed and, you know, how they killed Paul's father, how they all conspired to trick them and, to get this whole thing started in the first place. But, you know, and in that movie, Batista seemed fierce and he seemed like no nonsense. I remember that part where one of the guys is like, hey, we can't do that. And he starts bashing his head up against that computer screen. We need to find them. Yeah. We need to kill them all now. You know, he seemed merciless. Now, he definitely seemed powerless when he was in the presence of the Baron. He definitely was submissive and like, oh, God, I don't want to mess up and all of that kind of stuff in the presence of the Baron. But that was the only time he seemed worried or pressured or anything like that. Every other time he was being a mean motherfucker or he was commanding people or anything like that. So I just didn't get that impression from him until he started failing to find Paul, and they kind of started, and you know, the Baron kind of started punking him around and saying, if you don't do it this time, I'm removing you and I'm putting this guy in. And definitely the Austin Butler character, you find out, is better. Like, he's more psychotic. He's more mean. He's a better fighter, all of those things. So I get all of those things, but I didn't get the impression Batista was a bitch. I just got the impression that he, you know, he failed one too many times, but but you know, the Baron never got rid of him. He was still out there. And I just figured that they would just have a better interaction. I just thought, you know, okay, Josh Brolin, here he goes. That's going to be a big interaction. And it wasn't. And I don't know if it was because Batista's a bitch more than it was that they knew we were going to get that final fight with Paul and Austin Butler. And I think it was more because of that. I think that they knew that that was going to be the main event. So you didn't want to have this big fight with Batista and Josh Brolin and then turn around and have another big fight. I think that could have been more, but they sacrificed it because they wanted the fight at the end to be the big one. I feel like that was more the decision than anything. And if it was, cool. You know, I'm not saying that it like killed the movie for me or anything, but you know, I just thought Batista might go out a little harder than that. You know, it was just a little quick for my taste. But other than that, like I think, you know, it ended in a pretty compelling way, and I want to see the third one. Like I didn't walk out of this and go, well, I could care less what happens in the next one. I kind of want to see it. And I don't know. I kind of like this place I'm in where I haven't read any of the books. I haven't seen the previous movie. So I like being in this state of, I don't know what happens. So I don't have any of these expectations, or I'm not like, well, how is Chani going to do this thing she's supposed to do later? I like that I don't have any of that. I like that I'm just kind of watching and seeing and wondering how this is all going to turn out. Is Paul going to wind up marrying Florence Pugh, or is he not going to do it, you know, at the last second? They could change it completely. And I think that because they made so many changes, that's compelling too. The fact that I could see something a little different compels me also. And I just don't see this with what they're setting up and how they're telling this story of the nature versus nurture, the destiny versus you controlling your own path, and all of these kind of opposite stories they're telling. I just don't see it ending in just a typical way, or at least I hope it doesn't. I hope it winds up ending with us saying something a little more meaningful than just what we've done in the past. And I think with what they've set up, this has the potential to do that.
Well, at this point, Jastin, as long as you don't read the books, you can go back and watch all that other shit. You're not really going to get any new information, really. Because the movies and everything, like I said, one of the differences, the sister is born in the other movies. You know, there's a time jump. But outside of that, shit kind of plays out, at least as far as that goes, the same. Baron dies. Like, you know what I mean? Because the sci-fi miniseries, which if anybody wants to, it's all on YouTube. It's like 6 hours long, though, so be warned. You know, that and, you know, the original Dune movie, it's the same. It's just the first book. Everything's the first book. They have not adapted any of the subsequent books into movies or TV. So you don't really have to worry about that. Now, if you go back and watch the David Lynch Dune, you're not going to be like, oh, well, this ruins the rest of this shit. It's not. So,
okay.
You at this point, you can go back and watch that shit. You're not really going to get spoiled. So that's just on that. I mean, and one of the only reasons why I've seen the original Dune and all this other shit, my dad really likes Dune. So I watched Dune as a kid a few times.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he's a Duneite, or I don't know, what do they call the people that like Dune? If Trek people are Trekkies,
It's a Duniac.
Did you just make that up?
Duniac.
A
like
Duniac.
Is that? Did you make that up, or was that really what they're called?
I'm gonna go with that's what they're called. They are Duniacs.
Sure, I don't hate that.
Personally, I think they are called Dune coughs. Yes. It's a bastardization of German dumbass. But with the word Dune instead of Doom. But still.
Damn.
I don't like Dune. I think this settles it. Like, if we do a third movie, if they do a third and we're going to have to do it because we're going to do all this shit, like, I don't like it. This world does not engross me. And it's been like that my whole life. And I always thought it was because of how weird the original David Lynch movie is. Because it's the story of Dune, but it's also like David Lynch, who's kind of an out there fucking director as it is. Which kind of, I guess, makes sense as to why he did Dune, But, no, it's practically the same. I mean, he did not David Lynch it up too terribly much. Outside of the fact that half the cast is just, it's one, David Lynch is one of those directors that loves using the same people over and over again for shit. So there's like so many people that were in Dune that are also in Twin Peaks, so you see a lot of that type of stuff. But no, see, the first Dune came out before I was born. I mean, I would say probably the first time I watched it, though, I was probably 4 or 5 because we had the VHSs. We had the VHSs of Dune. And I mean, so I've been familiar with this story for fucking 34 years of my life, 33, 34 years. I've been familiar with what Dune is. And yeah, I'm done with it. Like, I'll watch it, but
I will say, like, as far as directing wise in general, like, I guess I appreciate, Denis Villeneuve? I don't know how you say his name, but like, he is kind of like versatile in his movies that he's done. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's not one of those where and I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's not like I'm like, oh, that's definitely his film after I've seen it, because Dune looks very different than Sicario, looks very different than Prisoners. You know what I mean? Like, looks very different than every movie that he has is just very much its own thing. And I kind of appreciate that.
His sci-fi movies all tend to kind of look kind of similar, though.
I guess that's fair, because the Blade Runner one is a little bit more.
Yeah. And there's elements of it also in Arrival, I'd argue.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay.
But yes, and Blade Runner, I don't know, at least the fucking sound mixing in this one. I don't remember the sound mixing in the first Dune. The sound mixing did not drive me nuts in this one. But also, this was, I mean, like Jastin was talking about a little bit, we watched the first Dune at home. Because that was a pandemic movie. Yep. So, maybe the movie theater surround sound kind of helped dilute some of the bad mixing that may have been in Dune. Because all I know is the sound mixing that was in Blade Runner 2049 or 2040, whatever the fuck that movie was called. God, that made me want to rip my ears off in theaters. They would just do those loud ass, like, fucking robot horn noises. Constantly. And just, man, Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling are sitting there having a conversation that has fucking direct plot points to it. And they're like, oh, let's drown out every word that they're saying with just noise. Oh,
I like those sounds. It sounded like
but you don't
hypnotic
need that in a
right away.
conversation. Like it'd be like right now, if all of a sudden it just what we're saying just got blasted out by cyber noise. Like, why?
But if we make the right facials and the right camera angles, it's hypnotic. And I don't know. Sometimes you just enjoy being hypnotized. You know, it was kind of
Not while people are talking and it's plot points.
I was being snake charmed. You know, it was just kind of going like that in the theater. I don't know. I kind of liked it. I was digging it.
That was a good move. Going like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Jastin, you can do a lot of things,
you know,
but like
just being charmed.
you're
I mean, come on. It was Harrison Ford and Ryan Gosling.
Your recreation of
charmed,
a snake being
man.
charmed is not the best.
Well,
You just look like
they
a
come out of the
watermelon.
pot, you know. I can't. I'm sitting in a seed. This is the best I can do, man. But you know, they come out of the pot. You know how they come out.
So what you're saying is next time I'm around you, we need to watch Blade Runner 2049. So I can just sit there watching you watch a movie and you'll just randomly like every time a big fucking loud noise happens.
It's the thing with it is I just absolutely do see Jastin doing that. Like I honestly, if he's in the right mood, I can totally see him doing that.
I want to see him doing that whilst eating popcorn.
Yeah.
It'd be a little more difficult, but I could handle that assignment.
All right, we'll see. Challenge accepted.
I can't believe you didn't like those sounds. You weren't just sitting there going,
No.
Man, that's far out. You know,
Not at
just
all.
Kind of
Not in the
reaction
slightest.
like
Not
that.
even a fucking little bit.
Really? You just weren't like, man, I'm on vacation. Like, that's weird.
I'd rather watch Dune 2 again
Different, I guess.
than hear those noises.
I just felt different, I guess. I just thought it was, you know, wow, this is neat. What a ride this is.
Nope, not at one point was I like, oh, this is just a ride for the senses. Were you in one of those like 4D theaters where your seat was moving and they were like spraying your face with water while they were doing it? So you're like, it's like being on a boat.
Oh, that would have been so much more fun, though. With Blade Runner, that would have been a lot of fun.
What if they did that during Dune and it just shot sand in your face constantly? Just like every time they're riding a worm, it just shoots sand at you.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God, dude. Like, don't even say Dune, dude. That would have been sick in Dune with the sound and the special effects and everything. Because, like, when you've done that experience, like I did it for that, I told y'all about it, that Harry Potter, the Fantastic Melons. What was it called?
Fantastic Melons. Really, Justin? You went and watched a porn in a 3D, like a 4D theater? Because that's what that is.
Well, how do you know I meant those melons? I mean, I just meant the Fantastic Monsters
Beasts.
or whatever it's called. Beasts
and melons. Yes. Synonymous, really. Just so easy to get confused.
Same difference. You know, both fantastic. Like when I watched that,
those beasts
was
were
like,
not fantastic.
when I watched that, you know, in the theater, that was fun, man. You're sitting there, you know, and I could only imagine Dune like that, though. I would love to watch this movie like that.
It'd be funny. Every time you go to take a drink, the seat just knocks your drink away. So you're just thirsty the whole time.
That happened to me the first time. Well, I didn't knock it over, but like I almost dropped my popcorn because I didn't expect it during the previews. The previews, it was all bam, bam, blam. And I was like, whoa, hey.
I watched
hold
one
on.
movie with that, and I don't remember what movie it was. I watched one movie like that. But it wasn't a movie that really could utilize it that well. And I was just like, this is dumb. I just want to sit here and watch a movie. Why are you jostling me? Why are you treating this like it's a fucking Six Flags ride? What is this garbage?
Oh, you didn't like it? You didn't like getting shaken up?
Man, you remember...
Why are you jostling me?
You remember back in the day, you could go to the mall and you can get in those simulators where it's just that big fucking black metal box. And it'd be like a jet or something. And you just be sitting there going like this the whole fucking time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that shit. And fuck this. What is this?
But sometimes, man, that thing gives you a good rock. I mean, that thing shakes the shit out of you.
Yeah, that's what that fucking movie scene was doing. I don't need that shit.
I kind of like just being, roughed around a little bit. It was just fun being thrown around a little bit. Just like,
all right, I'm not trying to yuck your yum over there. Kink what you want to kink. I don't care. I'm just saying, like, it's a little weird, but I'm trying to watch a fucking movie, though. I mean, granted, you were watching a porn, so I guess there is some fun with that. But
no, it wouldn't be fun watching porn with those reactions. That would probably be inconvenient if I was watching a porn. But watching the Fantastic Beasts, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Heather. You know that would be hard. You know that would be difficult.
Now all of a sudden, Jastin remembers the name of the movie. Now Jastin does.
Yeah.
Gets called out for watching porn in a 4D theater. And he's like, oh, I remember now.
But it would be hard to enjoy a porn. Or should I say it would be non-hard to enjoy the porn with a seat like that. But no,
hey, I think
really
with the Water Misters, it would add just a new level of realism to all of it.
Nah, I'm good, dog. But I'm good with that. But I don't know, man. Just like when stuff blows up or when there's an earthquake and the characters are like, and you kind of shaking with them, sometimes it can feel more interactive. It just feels more compelling. It's just another element. Would I want to watch every movie like that? No. But I think certain movies like this would have been fun as hell watching it like that, because when the ships are landing and the vibrating and all the boom, 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 or like that action scene where the whatever that ship or whatever, the legs were moving and they were trying to avoid the sniper by moving with the legs. Like, man, the seat would have been rumbling and shaking and it would have been vibrating when the shots went by you. Air would have shot in your face when the shots rang by. Like, that would have been pretty neat in a 4D theater, But I digress.
That just sounds terrible.
Why do you hate fun?
Why do you hate just watching a fucking movie?
But you're experiencing. Yes, you can watch any movie, Sterling, but this, it's more like an experience. That's what you pay for, man. The experience.
Yeah, the experience of the movie. I don't need all this other garbage. I don't need your bullshit just to, enjoy a film. Just make a good movie. How about that?
But some people like getting shaken up. Some people sometimes need that little,
that jostle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jastin,
that's jostled.
That's when you find a partner or a friend to do that. I don't need that at a fucking movie theater. I mean,
I didn't say jerked off. I just said jostled.
Yeah, and thrown around. I wasn't thinking about, jerk offs either. I was talking about just getting thrown around.
But you said a partner. Yeah, never mind. I guess I just misinterpreted that. A partner to throw you around?
Yeah, that is some people's kink, Jastin. To get thrown around. It's fine. People like it. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to get thrown around while I'm trying to enjoy some popcorn and goobers and Raisinets.
Just hold it. Just all you gotta do is hold on tight. Just hold on a little tighter than normal, and get you all shake it up. You know what I'm saying, brother?
What the fuck do you do while you watch movies that you hold on to anything? Because you're like, hold on just tighter than normal. I'm not holding on at all.
You sit there and hold it and you get shook up. That's just how it works.
Yeah, I'm not holding shit, Jastin.
You got to be ready for it, Sterling. You don't ever know when it might start shaking or when somebody might throw a grenade in the movie or whatever. So you got to be ready. You're on alert. Like, man, I'm on alert with Harrison Ford. You know, that's how I feel.
Yeah, that's why you just. That's why you just watch a movie without that. You just never get jostled around.
But then you can't be alert with Harrison Ford. You can't be the same. You can't be alert.
Hey, why do you keep going back to Harrison Ford? Like,
he's there. you just, what? You know, you want to be alert.
That would kill that man. That man is like 89 years old and broke his hip 27 times in the last 5 years. They don't need to be doing that shit.
In my vision, he's dope though. Like, you know, he's just there. And you got to be aware, and I mean just in movie form.
All right, Jastin, do me a favor then.
Dope version of Harrison Ford you envision.
When Captain America Brave New World, when that comes out,
okay,
watch that in a 4D theater because Harrison Ford's in that movie.
All right.
So go get jostled while you watch Harrison Ford. You do you, boo. I would say I'd want to be there, you know, while that happens, but then that would mean I would be getting jostled and I wouldn't want that. And two, I don't know. I mean, we've known each other for a long time and I don't know if I want to have that type of relationship with you. Seeing the look on your face whilst you getting jostled with Harrison Ford. I don't know if we're that close. We've known each other for 20 plus years, but I don't know if I'm that close with
4D. Yeah, we're going to have to go to a 4D movie and do this. And you can turn the effects off. So you can just be sitting there.
Can you?
Non-jostled. You can just be sitting there non-jostled, all boring and shit.
Can you really do that? Be sitting there, can you turn it off?
And me and Heather can be just sitting there getting thrown around. It'd be fun.
No, but for reals, can you turn it off?
Yeah, I think you can.
That'd be fantastic. Although I wouldn't want to pay the extra money to go in those theaters anyway. But still.
Because, you know, some people may have health issues or whatever, you know, but they want to go with family members and stuff. So, yeah, you can turn the stuff off, but
I really wish I remember what movie I saw like that. I really do. I just can't remember for the life of me what I saw. I want to say it was in the last couple of years too.
It wasn't Twisters or Twister?
Nah, because that movie's, you know, not up yet or out yet.
Twister.
It wasn't Maverick or anything?
Nah. I watched Maverick just in a regular old reclining seat. It's fantastic. I would not have liked Maverick as much as I did if I had seen that all jostled. Coming out of that.
I might have, man. Those scenes where they're in the cockpit and everything. It might have been sick. Go to the danger zone with Tom Cruise and the crew.
No. Anyway, you guys got any more Dune thoughts?
Nope.
I'm out.
Are you gonna get a Duniac tattoo now, Jastin?
Not quite. I didn't say I loved it. I just, it's
What-
all right, man.
What if you loved the third movie though? Would you be a Duniac then? Would you go on Facebook and say, I'm a proud Duniac and I don't care who knows?
I don't know if I could ever love it that much. I'm the Star Wars person. I like the lightsabers. I like Darth Vader.
So you're a Warzy?
I like Yoda.
Is that what they?
I like Yoda.
Is that what
Yoda
Star Wars
and the
fans are called?
Mandalorian.
Warzies?
That's my shit.
Or Warzy or Warzer?
A Wuzzle? I don't know.
I'm sure there's a name for them. I just don't know what it is.
Nerds. Dweebs, dorks. Star Wars is so boring. You got to get into that great sci-fi. Got to watch more Star Trek, man.
Warzians. That's what they're called.
Warzians.
Sounds about right. Anyway, on that note, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Cinema Slayers Podcast. Check us out on the internet at www.cinemaslayers.com. Cinema Slayers Podcast on Facebook, Cinema_Slayers on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd. At Cinema Slayers Pod on Twitter, or not Twitter, fuck that place. YouTube and TikTok is what I meant to say. Shout out to Plug Migo and Mundo Ochoa for our theme song and logos, respectively. Give us a 5-star rating review. It really help us out. We'd really appreciate it. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your friends' family, tell your family's friends. And most of all, tell those dear sweet mothers, because dear sweet mothers love
Timothy Chalamet?
Josh Brolin. Close.
Josh Brolin. Okay.
Yeah.
Side note, they're called Dunatics.
Duniacs.
Close. You were close.
They're
Yeah.
fucking Duniacs. They don't get a say.
Fanatics.
Duniacs. We here at the Cinema Slayers Podcast are pro slut, pro Sydney, and pro naked. When was the last time you had some naked strips from Raising Cane's, Jastin?
Sunday.
Not too long ago. When was the last time you ate Burger King?
It was a day.
A day?
It happened.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just know that it happened.
Remember, unlike Burger King, you Cinefans are enough. And as we always need and desire, justice for Chris. And ding dong, Henry Kissinger is still dead. Fantastic news. Fantastic. I was really worried this week. There wasn't much news going on movie-wise this week, so I was really kind of worried that Henry Kissinger would come back from the dead this week. And as I always end this podcast, the TikToks, and these YouTube videos, just remember, according to Jastin, Moon Knight is a Best Picture winner.
Also, I'm realizing that it's probably Dunatic and not Dunatic. That makes more sense. Dunatic.
Oh. So it's like lunatic.
That's my bad. I just read the word, and that's just what my mind did.
Lunatic.
I don't know.
See, that
Yeah.
actually makes sense, because you have to be in some level of lunacy to
Yeah.
like this shit. It's a bunch of nonsense.
Also, Sterling, I don't know if you noticed, but Nicole Kidman's commercial changed a bit,
It did.
at least in my theater.
It
yeah.
did. There were a few different scenes, but I also heard they're getting rid of it soon. So, oh my God, I cannot wait for that. I am so tired of seeing that woman's fucking stupid face.
Oh, no. Them's fighting words for Jastin.
Jastin, fuck your girl.
I don't like
But
that
also,
she's
like,
gonna
not
be
like
there
that.
for you
That was
guys.
weird phrasing on my part. I was like, Justin, just go fuck Nicole Kidman real quick. Get it over with because I'm tired of it. Figuratively, fuck yo girl.
Man, that makes me sad. She may not be with you guys for much longer.
God, I cannot wait. I've been counting down the days since I first fucking saw it.
No, you haven't. You're fine with it.
No, Jastin. And you know that's not true, Jastin.
I mean, you got to have a little sweet for Nicole. Just a bit. Just a sprinkle of sugar for her. I mean, who doesn't like Nicole Kidman? Just a little sugar.
No, they're releasing more. It's not that it ends. They're releasing more. They're changing it and adding more of them.
Oh, really? Maybe they just meant they're getting rid of that specific commercial.
Just fuck my life. AMC, why do you hate me?
Yeah.
Once again, if I ever need proof that there is no God, it's that AMC fucking commercial. Just plaguing my soul. Just showing that there is actually no goodness or mercy in this world.
I feel like that's the thing that would get you to not go to AMC theaters anymore.
God. If anywhere else offered anything close to the AMC A-list near me, I would gladly go there over AMC just because I am so fucking tired of seeing her. And it's literally the last thing before the movie starts. The last thing before the fucking movie starts is her stupid mug on the screen.
And that sounds great. That sounds perfect.
Jastin, I sent you a link to the video and I told you all you got to do is just sit there and watch that before every fucking movie you watch and you'll fucking understand why I hate her so much.
It's not the same. I just want to see her on the big bright screen, you know, the screensies.
All right, Jastin, do it before you watch a movie at your house at least. Just pull it up on YouTube, watch that shit, then go watch whatever movie you bet to watch.
She did a great job with the commercial, man. I don't know what the problem is.
She did not do a fucking great job with that commercial. She did the work of evil. Her ad is the Burger King of ads.
Oh, come on. I think at an awards show, though, the host did point that out, though. You know,
it's the Burger King
I think
of
he
ads?
pointed her. You know, he pointed her out. It was like, thank you to Nicole Kidman for being in a commercial every time I watch a movie, telling me to watch a movie in a theater when I'm already in a theater. Somebody actually said
so
that
they
to
ripped
her.
off the shit I have been saying for years. I literally brought that up the first time I fucking watched it on this podcast. And
Yeah,
they're
somebody
stealing it
said
from
that.
me. Ooh.
And
I'm gonna find out
nobody
who did it.
laughed. Nobody laughed because everybody loves Nicole Kidman on the screen before they watch.
Yeah,
the movie.
nobody laughed because they
No
were
one
like, oh,
laughed.
yeah, we heard that 2 years ago in the Cinema Slayers podcast.
No, I just don't think they didn't laugh. They grimaced like
Our cinematic
get rid of her.
champion, Sterling, has been ranting and raving about that for years.
They grimaced because how could you hate on Nicole Kidman?
Easy.
They
Just like
grimaced.
this. Fuck her. It's so easy to do. Her and her husband are partial owners of the Tennessee Titans and still fuck her.
Just a big meanie.
Okay. All right, I'm going to go. You go get jostled, Jastin. Go get jostled.
We don't have the jostle theaters here. We don't have them yet.
Have them yet? You're waiting for this piece of 2010 technology to finally arrive in Midland?
So you need to go on my behalf and do it for me. At least you won't see Nicole Kidman. You won't see Nicole. then you can just get thrown around. You know what I mean?
Jastin, they have those at AMC theaters.
You can go watch Lisa Frankenstein and just get thrown around, you know? Whoa, Lisa, you know?
No, Jastin, no.
I'm giving you so many good ideas.
Jastin, you have not said a good goddamn idea yet.
So good ideas. Man.
Jastin, you sound like you're jonesing for a Jocelyn. You're just like, go get it for me. Somebody needs to get jostled.
No, I'm just saying, I think if you got jostled more, you'd appreciate it more.
I don't think you understand how little I like getting jostled.
I mean, but how long have you gone without getting jostled? I mean,
pretty much most of my life.
I think if you just...
Like it's real easy to do.
You know, I think if you just start incorporating that more, you would appreciate it more.
No, Jastin, that's like saying like, hey, when was the last time you did heroin? Because I think if you just did more heroin, you would like it more. Doing more of something isn't necessarily a good thing, Jastin.
It is with that, though.
All right, I'm getting the fuck out of here.